Hi again. A more thoughtful instructor would have a costume change between installments of the videos that I'm doing this morning, but I'm not that thoughtful. Oh, wait. Ta-da! All right, so let's look at how to get started on a paper. This should be review at this point, but I think it's worth talking about because some people just have a little trouble getting off the ground, and if you're like me, once you have a start, then things sort of roll after that. But you have to get something down to get started. So listen, what do you do to write a paper like this? You think of the central question, which is whether we should pursue happiness. Should pursue happiness. 3 terms in there that are key to understanding it, and you have to come up with an answer. I think we should pursue happiness. Well, like literally, Karen Crago believes we should pursue happiness, and that's the primary purpose in life. But I define happiness as connection and creativity and things like that. So I can write a paper about this, but I have to think first why. And it's okay, by the way, if you disagree, because happiness can also be seen as a very shallow value. You guys have pointed this out nicely on the discussion boards. So why do I think we should pursue happiness? Well, because we only have one life to live, and we should make the most of it, because happiness is, as I define it, is a good that's irrefutable, I think, because you just have to come up with, first of all, a list of why. Why? And you should have a good list. To write a 5-page paper, you should try to come up with a list of maybe 7 or 8 individual reasons why we should pursue happiness. You should also have a list of cons, counter arguments. So you might start by saying, why shouldn't we pursue happiness? Because happiness is selfish, and we should strive to think of others more, maybe, because maybe some people have sort of a faith conviction that makes them think there's a higher value than personal happiness. Certainly, a lot of religious figures we can think of sacrificed their own happiness and everything. So if we're going to follow a religious path, sometimes happiness seems shallow, maybe, I don't know. But I have to kind of generate a list regardless. So maybe 8 pros, 3 or 4 cons, and your body paragraphs of the paper. In a body paragraph, it's like big as my face, apparently, according to this model. Body paragraph is about half a page long, and to write a 5-page paper, you're going to need to have an intro, a background paragraph defining terms, and a series of arguments and counter arguments. I talk about how to arrange those potentially on my outline that I put in my assignment sheet. And you need a conclusion. So you see the math, right? If we come up with like a series of arguments and counter arguments, maybe 8 and 4, we've got more than we need, which is good. You should think of more than you need, because the first idea that comes into your head is probably the least interesting idea that you're going to have. So try to think and push yourself for depth and insight. We don't read because we want to see something we've seen before. We read anything, fiction, poetry, the newspaper, because we're after new information, new insights, new ways of seeing things. So you got to think of something new to say about this topic. A little hard to do, really, but think of a bunch of arguments and counter arguments. Then you can pick the best. And if your paper's running short, you can go back and pick from the not so best, right? So by the way, I usually, after I come up with my list of pros and cons, I usually order those up. And I think about, after my intro and my background paragraph, if I have one, what do I want to put first? For me, it's usually a counter argument, strangely, because I'd like to establish that there's an actual issue, that there's another side and I understand it. I'm not just missing this other way of looking at things, but I've chosen to reject it. So if I put my counter argument first, it shows that I'm reasonable. I've thought of I just put my glasses up. Reasonable people do that. Smart, reasonable people. But I've thought about my opposition, and I've rejected their viewpoint, and I've got a better way. So that's what putting your counter argument first does. Now, if you have a killer rebuttal to a counter argument, maybe put it last. If that's better than any of your arguments, it's like your 1-2 punch for your how you respond to a counter argument, and put it last. Maybe it doesn't really matter, but what does matter is that you proceed mindfully with a plan. So I'm giving you advice, by the way, that I don't follow when I write. I just like I just write it because I love to write. But I found that this way works, and when it's difficult, sometimes I resort to this too. Think about what you want to say, order those things up in a strategic way, and then that serves as an outline, not Roman numeral 1 and capital letter A, blah, 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 but like your map for what you're going to write. And a little bit more on that to come too. But good luck. I wish you well, and I'm here to help.